What will Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown be like as leaders now that they've won a championship? We're starting our camp questions right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster brand, it's holiday season. Drop Drew in the mix, and 3 from KP. No, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Deuce, still Big Town's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in Locked On after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D White on the breakdown. John on the mic documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J Tower started raising business. How we finish? Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there. Welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. We're here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're to our team every day. I got you covered every Monday through Friday. Plus, when they start playing games, wherever they play games on the weekends, post-game podcasts, bonus podcasts. So make sure you're subscribed. Watch the show on YouTube. Get into the comment section. And join me for this potentially second championship ride. I'm John Karalis. I've been covering the Celtics for nearly 20 years. I've written a couple of books. One of them is called Built Different, celebrating the Celtics 18th banner. Go buy it at johnkaralis.com. $30. I'll sign it. I will inscribe it. I will personalize it however you want and mail it out to you in the United States. $30. Sign, personalize, all of that stuff. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Go ahead and download that Gametime app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Get $20 off your first purchase of last-minute tickets. Today, we're getting into camp questions. Camp's a week away. And first question up, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They are leaders of this team, but they have never led this team as champions. So how will they do it? Well, let's get Tom Westerholm in here. Also a champion in his own right.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know what that means, but
I've been on multiple championship winning men's league basketball teams in my life.
There you go.
3 to be exact. I remember them all very clearly. What a feeling.
Great feeling. Parades.
Yeah. What are they going to say now? That's what
So
I guess we'll never know, Mike.
As a champion. All right, so let's just get right to it, because the premise of this is not to question Tatum and Brown, because I don't think it's going to be much different if they come in and stay focused and kind of do what they did last year and just treat it as any other season. They should be fine. I'm not worried about this or anything like that. However, we've never seen it. It's the one thing we haven't seen from these guys. How do they do it after having won? And the question is, like, are they still hungry? Do they skip a step? How do they feel? Do they feel like they can go for their own a little bit here or there? So I guess that right away, what do we think of Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum? What challenges do you face coming into a post-championship season and trying to lead this team back to do it again?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting to think about the Spurs, right? And the run that they went on, where they had so many championships and they weren't, sequential, like they weren't in order. And I always thought that, like, in its own weird way, that made a lot of sense as a way to go back, because it's like you win one and that's great, and then the next season you're a little tired. You start off the season a little slow because it's like you could. I feel like you can talk a great game about being hungry, and you like, yeah, this made me even hungrier to win another one, and it's like, maybe, but like also, like, I kind of understand if you're not, because it's a different experience, right?
Yeah.
You like last year, you came into the season starving, right? Like that's what Al Horford said. He's like, starving. That's like, yeah, like you've had all these like failures in the playoffs and all these like, awful, like devastating moments, like the Heat series last year. Like, yeah, that would have left you, famished, right? And like to keep going. And like, and then this year it's different, and you have to adjust to being satiated a little bit, right? Whereas like the Spurs, right? You come in, you win a title, the next season you lose. It's like, oh man, now I'm hungry again, right? It's like you build your appetite back up. You come out, you win the next year, and you're like, all right, like now I lost again. Now I got to build that. It's just like that always made more sense to me than like the Bulls winning 3 in a row twice. That's like that's that's a different thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm looking at with Tatum.
I feel like it's 100% true, because if you've ever been like, I grew up and we had a little bit of money, my dad restaurant, and then we lost it all and we kind of really broke. And when you're really, really broke and you're hungry, you just open up the cabinet and you go, what do I have? This is how I'm going to make this work. When you're not so hungry, you've had a few good meals, you open up the cabinet and you go, this is what we have? Man, we got nothing to eat. And it's still the same cabinet, but before you're like, okay, it's raviolis and white bread, and that's going to be my dinner for tonight. And now you're like, I'm not eating no ravioli. And hey, sorry, Chef Boyardee, like this is at one point that was fine, and at one point now it's like you sneeze at it. And that when it comes to basketball, it's yes, I will do that drill because I know I need to do that drill. And now you're like, we got to do this drill again. I've done it. I know what it is. So that it's not even so much the work. It's that post-work attitude. And how does it permeate your next day? Because you haven't won, right? When you haven't won and you've put in the work and you go home and you're tired and you're sore, that next day you're like, doesn't matter because I haven't won. And so I'm going to work through the soreness. I'll cold tub. I'll stretch. I got to go into treatment for an extra 10, 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever. Now there's that risk of, I'm not going to do that extra thing. I'm not going to do the extra half hour of treatment because I'm not going to go as hard. I am going to sit out the last few drills of practice. I am going to say, ooh, I'm getting some ankle soreness or some knee soreness, and I'm going to sit this part out because I've already done it. Yeah. If anybody does that, and look, all you got to do is say, ooh, I'm getting some swelling here in my knee or something, and be like, okay, good training room, boom.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that. You can go look at it. You probably do have some swelling and soreness in your knee. You're a basketball player. Everybody has it. Yep. You take literally any basketball player, the healthiest one in January, you put an MRI machine, you put his knees in there, and they'd be like, yeah, there's some swelling in there. There's a little bit of damage, right? Any single one of them. So you can get away with it. But that's the difference. Do you take any shortcuts? And that's Jaylen and Jayson, or Jayson and Jaylen, however you want to put first. I'm not trying to single anybody out. Those are the two guys, but you've done it. You've done it a lot. You've put in a lot of work. You've led this team. You're really, really great basketball players. So you can say, either one of those guys, hey, you know what? I am not feeling it today. I'm going to take it a little slow today because I'm Jaylen Brown. I'm Jayson Tatum. I can do that and still be Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum the next day.
Yeah.
But Sam Hauser sees that, right? Peyton Pritchard sees that. Xavier Tillman sees that. And either somebody goes, well, I'm going to take it easy if he's taking it easy, or, hey, why are you taking it easy? You know what I mean? What made you so like that's the little bit. That's the little bit that I'm looking at with the two stars who you might say have a legitimate case to be like, you know what? I am going to take it a little easy today because it's been a long summer and a short summer at the same time. And I know I can take this day off and not have it affect me when it really does affect you.
For sure. And I think the thing that you hope, right, is that when you look at Tatum and Brown, the thing that they like, yeah, they might not be as hungry, but the other side of that is they also have learned how to do it, right? Like they've learned how, now they know, okay, last year we won a championship and this is what it took. And if I do that again, that might, now I know the process. Now I know the steps. When you talk about, Jaylen likes to talk about not skipping steps. Well, now they know all the steps. They've actually seen them all. They've walked them all. And it's like, okay, now you got to do that again. And I think that the nice thing is, like, and I always tell my kid this too. It's right. It's like when you play sports, it's like if you go, he likes to call it extreme mode, right? If you go extreme mode, if you then go extreme mode again, extreme mode is a little bit easier and your extreme mode is a little bit higher. So it's like it actually gets easier to go extreme mode or to not skip steps if you've done it before. So then I think that's what you're hoping for, right? Is to see like, okay, these guys who have taken every step in the past, not skipped steps in the past, that they just kind of follow that again. And it's hard and it's hard to do it a second time, but it's also a little bit easier to now that there is a blueprint for how to go about it.
I'm going to challenge that notion as Joe Mazzulla.
Okay.
When I come back. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book because they're doing something different all the time. And this time it's giving you a free trial to NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. All you got to do is place a $5 bet on something. Maybe it's the Patriots to cover the spread minus or plus 6.5 against the Jets. Now through September 22nd, you place that $5 bet. So you've got a few more days. You get that 3-week free trial. And then if you've got a YouTube TV base plan, then you watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game there on YouTube TV. They get the multi-view. You could probably put 4 of them on there at once. So keep track with your fantasy league or your whatever the one where you get knocked out, that knockout league. I don't do those anymore, but you could do it all there on YouTube TV. All you need is Google account, current form of payment. You can cancel at any time. It's a pretty good deal. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Make Locked On NBA your second listen. I just recorded the show with Jake Madison, the Wednesday show I host on Wednesdays. We talked about way too early MVP conversation and a lot of Jayson Tatum talking there. Talked about Joe Mazzulla, what I talked about yesterday in the podcast. We expanded on that a little bit, coaches, ranking coaches, and we talked about the 4-point shot in the Philippines. That was a part of the conversation, so go check that out wherever you get your podcasts. So, Tom, everything you said made sense, but I'm going to channel Joe Mazzulla and say you don't want to follow the same steps. You don't want to be going up that same staircase. I think his approach, and this is going to be part of the Tatum and Jaylen like leadership. His approach is going to be, let's do something different. And I've been asked, talked about like the baton passing quote from Joe when it came to like, he is going to make his team pass batons like a 4x400 relay in the Olympics. And why is he going to do that? Because it's uncomfortable. It's something these guys probably don't care to do. Like if you're a basketball team and Joe brings out these Olympic batons and they're going to be like, what the heck what is this, Joe? And he's going to make them do weird things to make things different and to hammer points home. I think Joe's point of emphasis this season is going to be how many of these steps that we know, how many of those can I change? How many of those steps can I make different? Because the counter to what you said is, while yes, each time you take that set of steps, it's easier and you could probably do it faster each time. It's like the concept of lifting weights. Yeah. You put 200 pounds on the bar and you can bench it once. Great. Then the next time you maybe bench it twice and you try to get yourself up to doing reps with 2 bills. And like, that's how you build it up. Same idea. Totally makes sense. But it's also, it has the potential to get a little mindless where you do the same thing and you're like, okay, I'm just going to focus. I'm going to do this again. And you start focusing on maybe the task and instead of why the task. And I think for Joe, he needs the guys to see the parallels and the why. And this, like, why bring up killer whales? Why bring that up unless you're trying to make a point of why? Why am I talking about this stupid thing? Oh, because it's humility, and it tells you that they can do it on their own, but they do it better as a team. And like, you got to get that point versus I know why Joe's doing this. Let's just go do this. Let's just get through this. And yeah, we can do it faster and it looks better. But are we really getting the lesson out of it, right? Are you getting the nutrition out of this meal, going back to the hungry thing? So I think, like I said, your points are all good. I think Joe has a different mindset. And I think Jaylen and Jayson have to get into that different mindset of, we're going to have to do different things just as well, and focus on all those little things to continue to like understand why this next part of the journey has to go this way.
Do you mean to tell me that Joe Mazzulla has a different mindset than kind of what you kind of think logically?
Yes. It may sound weird to say out loud, but
Certainly
Joe
sounds weird. Certainly sounds weird on this podcast. There's never been any examples of that.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think, one of the interesting things I think about watching Jayson and Jaylen kind of progress this season is, okay, how do they embody the Joe Mazzulla, right? Because it's like, that Gordon Hayward did that podcast. And when I was listening to him, I had forgotten how much he sounds exactly like Brad Stevens, right? Like down to the cadence, down to the words that he uses, the little filler words that he uses, right. Like how everybody who's been coached by Brad Stevens finishes sentences with right. But like, I'm fascinated to see how is Jayson going to get weird? Can we get like weird Mazzulla pilled Tatum at any point? That would be awesome. Can we get, Jaylen, I feel like has the potential to kind of like, Joe likes to be a contrarian. Jaylen Brown has contrarian potential.
Oh my God.
Like if
Yes.
just like I kind of want to see these guys start to really embody the weird Joe Mazzulla stuff. I think that would be kind of fun. And I think because like we've talked about a million times this summer, right? The weird Mazzulla stuff isn't just weird Mazzulla stuff. It works. And he's got a method behind it. He's got reasons behind it that make a lot of sense, that kind of make you think like, yeah, this guy's kind of like a little bit of like a mad genius, right? Like you're like, oh, this guy's very, very smart and odd. And I think that like, it would be cool to see Jaylen and Jayson kind of, like embody that, kind of make that a part of themselves as leaders. Because the other thing is about them both is like, they're still very kind of young in their leadership journey, right? That this is still relatively new for them. There's a lot of room for growth there. There's a lot of like, they're veterans, but they're young veterans. So like, there's still a lot of, a lot of open space for them to grow that way. So yeah, if they grow as weird Mazzulla acolytes, I'm all about it. I want to see it happen.
I'm gonna put this on my YouTube exclusive shirt with killer whales jumping through the water. Somewhat fashionable shirt, I would say. I could see Jayson Tatum wearing that. If Jayson Tatum comes into camp wearing this shirt with killer whales jumping through the water, would that satisfy your desire for him to? Would that be weird enough for you? Is that Mazzulla pilled enough?
No, because that's just imitating Mazzulla.
It's a little.
Like he needs to be somehow even more contrarian, right? Like.
What if they all came in with red dots on their foreheads? If they all just put like a red dot on their head?
I think that's like a game 7 move. Like that's like like it's down to the last thing. We gotta like, here we all come with dots on our foreheads.
I feel like Joe would actually give them dots on their heads for practice. Like day one.
I feel like Joe would actually hire somebody with laser pointers to like
just the sight, just the laser sight, and just
we all learned from John Morant. You can't actually do.
Yeah. Just being clear, just the laser pointer,
just the laser part,
just the laser part, and just have the guy standing there, and all of a sudden, just a bunch of laser pointers on their heads would actually be. Yeah, I can see him absolutely doing that. Oh my God. But I think that's the Tatum and Brown element in this, is just embracing this to the fullest. Like they have to see it and understand, like, look, if we're going to do this, and we're going to do this with Joe, and both of those guys have expressed a fondness for Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah.
I think they have to dip into that. I think they have to just say, you know what? It's not just like, Joe's a little crazy. We have to buy in, and they have to be, yes, 100%. Yeah,
That's
killer
it.
whales and all that stuff.
That's it. That's the contrarian stance. Joe Mazzulla is not crazy. Joe Mazzulla is right. You all are crazy for not thinking what Joe Mazzulla thinks. That's the contrarian stance.
Right.
I think I want to see.
Yeah, that's where they have to be. All right, let's continue this, and kind of what it looks like on the floor. What it looks like on the floor with Jaylen and Jayson as leaders, as champions, when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. It's the place to go to get your last-minute tickets to anything theater, comedy, music, sports. I've used it to go see a Red Sox game. That's a great place to go get yourself those Red Sox tickets. They've even got a new feature. It's called Gametime Picks. Makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier because it filters out the fluff and it shows you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. So you take what Game Picks sends you and you say, okay, I love it. I'm going to toggle the all-in pricing so I know the number that I see is the number I am going to pay. And then you have your seat view because, okay, now I know that they're sending me the best deal. I know that I got the all-in pricing, and now I know what this is going to look like. Boom. I'm going to hit buy because I know their lowest price guarantee will credit me 110% of the difference if they find this ticket, if this ticket exists somewhere else, the same ticket, the same section, the same row for less. So you know you can count on them, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Go download the Gametime app, create your account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. So it's pretty obvious. Like, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the podcast and say, I don't think this is going to be an issue, but I can't say it with 100% certainty, maybe 95% certainty, 99, but we haven't seen it, but we're going to have to see it. And we're going to have to see it on the floor. It's going to look a lot like, I think, what we saw last year, but maybe I think because it's so much harder, we're going to have to see early on, I think maybe an even more concerted effort from Brown and from Tatum to move the ball, not look for their own offense, like get your teammates involved, treat the season like a big game. And the first quarter of the season, you're spending a lot of that getting your teammates involved. You're going to have to make sure that those guys understand we are not coming in and going for our own thing. We are not coming in and saying, hey, we won a championship, but like Jayson Tatum, I want to win that MVP. So I'm going to go for 30, 35 a few more times than I did last year. You guys understand, right? Because you don't want that mentality of, hey, let me go get mine a little bit more. I know when the playoffs come around, we know how to win. So we'll get back to that. But for now, let me do this. Can't do that. Like from day one, minute one, it has to be about we are making all of you better. So Derek and Drew and Al and guys off the bench, Tillman and Hauser and those guys, you're all going to get plenty of shots. We want you to feel like you're part of this. We want you to understand that this is all of us, and we will go when we get the appropriate moments. But when the choice comes between, hey, it's a 50-50, I'm going to take the shot, I'm going to make the pass. I think early on, I'd like to see them making the pass just to hammer that point home.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting to think back to last year and wonder how much of a difference that early I think it was during camp that conversation that all the best players had, you know, that they then took and they were like, hey, like, you know, we're all cool with this. Somebody's going to have to, like, we all understand that we have 6 starters on this team and
Yep.
somebody's going to have to come off the bench. That getting on the same page that they all did, it's interesting to kind of wonder, like, how much did that kind of propel them forward, right?
Yeah.
That sit down and just, okay, like, man to man to man to man to man to man, like what are we, like, where are we all at? Are we all, how can we all kind of come to an agreement here? And like, that was probably a really good thing. I mean, that definitely established some, seemed to establish just some, I don't want to say hierarchy because that's not it, right? It established some expectations, and it'll be interesting. Like, I don't know, will another conversation like that happen this year? Like, Ken, like, it would probably be a different one, right? Because who's coming off the bench this year, and you also know who's not going to be there at the start of the season. Like, it's a different dynamic for sure. But
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I think I think that's a thing where I think Jayson and Jaylen could kind of learn from last year, take into this year. Like, hey, if we all sit down together and we all work things out as a team, we can accomplish some big things. Like, that's another part of it. And I know that's like another off court thing, but yeah, but I mean, it did kind of translate to on the court success. It did kind of translate to a cohesive unit and a cohesive team. So yeah, I think stuff like that could be really important as well from a leadership perspective.
Yeah, and look, I think the preseason, maybe this trip to Abu Dhabi is an opportunity. It's not like when the Celtics went to, I keep going back to that 2007 trip to Italy, which you're in a foreign country, you're kind of in the same place, you're kind of forced to bond, and there's no doubt these guys already have a bond, right? You just won a championship together, you just went through this whole season together, but also once the season ended, you all just kind of dispersed, and okay, a couple of guys hung out, they were in the Olympics and all that stuff, but there's a reintroduction, right? There's a reintroduction, and it's like, hey, Sam, how's the baby? Congratulations on the baby. Hey, Peyton, how's married life, Peyton? All that stuff. It's different, and guys come into each season with their own different motivations. And you know what? Peyton Pritchard is married now. Maybe that changes his attitude about something, right? And it doesn't have to be anything huge, but maybe his wife's in his ear. Maybe something changed. Maybe it's for the better. Maybe it's for the worse. Maybe Sam Hauser's not getting enough sleep because he's got a newborn baby at home. Maybe that's, helps him focus. Maybe it destroys his confidence. Who knows? Point here is there has to be like a reintroduction, and it kind of has to be like this understanding of each guy, even though you're the same players, each guy has something different. And that's why this question is about Tatum and Brown leading as champions. Jaylen didn't go rap before any other season.
Yeah.
Now, does that matter in the grand scheme of things? No, it doesn't matter. I don't care that he rapped. I don't think he was very good at it, but I don't care that he rapped, but the idea of like, hey, you know what? I am going to go do this thing that's out of my character. I'm going to go do that. Like, what? Well, who did you meet? How does that impact how you see yourself? While you're sitting there recording, did people get into your ear, plant a seed? Does that help you or hurt you? Same thing with Jayson Tatum. Jason's been around pushing a children's book. He's been doing a lot of other things. Who's been in his ear? What celebrities have been in his ear to tell him something? He goes, oh man, I didn't think of it that way. All of these things, there has to be a reintroduction. And maybe being in Abu Dhabi is going to help that. But I'm just interested to see how these guys kind of see things. Is there going to have to be a little check on somebody's, attitude somewhere along the way? Is somebody too big for that check at this point? Like that, all of these little things that you may not expect. I don't expect, but you say, who knows? Maybe something does show up. And it all starts with Jaylen and Jayson. They have to be the guys that set the tone, because Missoula doesn't work if Jayson and Jaylen aren't buying in. If they aren't buying in, then all it's going to take is that one complaint in the locker room. Like, what the hell is Joe? What's he doing? And so, that's where Jayson and Jaylen have to be like, hey, fall in line, basically, or you run the risk of like, well, I'm just not going to do that when that comes up in practice or at the game. So they do have a lot of responsibility, and because we haven't seen it yet, even if the possibilities are remote, we still have to see it. We still have to see them take this like mantle, like going back to the very beginning. It's easy to be like, yeah, man, I've always worked hard. I've always worked really hard at this and been the hardest worker in the room. And maybe the first time you said that, you were like with, grease and dirt under your fingernails. And the second time you say that, you're getting a mani-pedi. And you're like, yeah, man, I still know the value of hard work. Be like, bro, you're not the same. That's things change, and you don't know what little tiny thing just shifts enough of the focus away that has an impact.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, again, it goes back to, especially after a championship, the hunger, if the hunger is there, it's going to be a different type of hunger. So
that's it.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well, we'll continue these camp questions. I'll get into, I think I want to talk about the defense tomorrow. We'll do all that. So make sure. Yeah. So Tom, maybe we'll have Tom back. Maybe we won't. I don't know. We'll see what his attitude is like after this. But for now, Tom, still
I'm gonna go hop on a track.
Yeah. No.
Appreciate you.
All right. Tom Westerholm, everybody. Find his work at boston.com. Thank you so much for listening and watching and all of that stuff. The media day is less than a week away, which means a week from to this Wednesday show. Next Wednesday, I'll be talking about what happened in the first day of practice. But Celtics practice, they're back. They're back on the floor. It's happening quickly because they're going overseas. So it's happening before every other camp. So we're getting started a little early. So make sure you're subscribed. I'm there at the practices. I'm talking to the guys. I'm watching as much as I can watch, as much as they'll show us. So you get a little bit of an insider view of the Celtics. So make sure you're subscribed. If you're not, watch the show on YouTube, get into that comment section. And I would love it if you share the podcast. Go ahead and spread the word. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.